2018 Jaguar I-Pace SUV Review. The good points of Jaguar I-Pace SUV. Claimed selection of up to 298 miles. Claimed rapid charge times. Impressive refinement as well as battery beneath floor liberates extra cabin space. Agile handling, comfortable ride. The bad points of Jaguar I-Pace SUV. Prices start at £63,495, so not cheap. At 2.2 tons, it is just a heavy car. Jaguar's reliability record unfortunately isn't the top. Welcome into a brave rainforest for a famous British brand, the electric Jaguar I-Pace SUV. That it exists, and on the market to order for customer deliveries later in 2018, just isn't in itself a surprise, as Jaguar has previewed the Austrian-built battery electric vehicle, BEV, with concept cars of the name since 2016. Make no mistake though, the I-Pace is often a game changer for Jaguar, but for the car market generally. As such, it currently doesn't have direct rivals, because Tesla Model X is really a lot larger. What's the technical specification? The I-Pace is 94% aluminium, and uses suspension familiar from Jaguar's XF and F-Pace models. But it's the electric drivetrain which enables this Jaguar unlike some other. A 90 kWh lithium-ion battery sits between your front and rear wheels. Twin electric motors provide power, with one at every axle to supply permanent all-wheel drive. A single-speed transmission means that you should not change gear. Jaguar claims 400 horsepower with 695 Newton-meters of torque, figures comparable to your high-performance saloon. The battery is protected by an 8-year warranty, and I-Pace needs a service every 24 months or 21,000 miles. What's the 2018 Jaguar I-Pace wish to drive? Press the D button within the center console as well as the I-Pace glides looking at the parking space into urban traffic, apparently silently within your cabin, though a low hum to warn pedestrians. Frontal visibility is a great one, even though you can't begin to see the corners on the snub bonnet, rear visibility less so. The reversing camera is important, however the mirrors provide you with all the information you will need in normal driving. Electric cars provide instant acceleration, and also the I-Pace certainly feels very eager and tuned into throttle inputs. Nevertheless, it's never excessively edgy during gentle maneuvers. More intriguing is one-pedal driving. Simply releasing the throttle produces a relatively strong braking effort because the electric motors harvest electricity to replenish it. You can reduce the strength of this via submenus inside the touchscreen and rely more for the brake pedal, but although it takes a limited time to adjust to one-pedal driving, it soon feels natural. Riding on our test car's air suspension with 20-inch alloys, conventional coil springs are standard, while wheel sizes consist of 18 to 22 inches, the I-Pace feels impeccably cushioned and controlled, even in the roughest surfaces. The steering weight is fairly heavy. Nevertheless, it's pleasingly precise, responsive and accurate, and a lot from overbearingly meaty. Accelerate around motorway speed and also the I-Pace surges forward basic relentless vigor so it makes most petrol or diesel cars feel decidedly sluggish, which enables it to embarrass even high-performance cars, as you move the 0 to 62 miles per hour of 4.8 seconds is fairly fast. The mid-range acceleration feels far stronger than that figure leads one to expect. The smooth ride is constantly on to define the driving experience at higher speeds, in conjunction with wind and road noise that's impressively suppressed, right approximately high motorway cruising speeds. The quietness of the electric car does emphasize any shortcomings in this particular department, even so the I-Pace's cabin is hushed and relaxed. There is noise, however, some sort of arcade game jet engine soundtrack that captures their alien driving experience plus the increasing ascent drama as speeds rise. Again, this really is dialed up or down through touchscreen. Perhaps most surprising is the place where enjoyable a real heavy electric SUV is always to drive down an overwhelming mountain road. Its balance of strong grip, Instant performance and good body control conspire to create the I-Pace feel surprisingly agile when driven enthusiastically. A contributory factor here is that the weighty battery and electric motors are concentrated so low down within the chassis, and also the lower the burden, the higher the handling from a car. Jaguar even laid with an off-road route through the Portuguese press launch, which involved wading through water nearly the I-Pace's axles, cruising at speed over unmade roads, and raising air suspension to navigate steep and dusty terrain, which the I-Pace simply shrugged off. How long should it take to charge the Jaguar I-Pace? Using a 50 kilowatts DC charge point, the type typically available at motorway services and public car parks, requires 85 minutes for taking I-Pace's 90 kilowatt-hours power supply from flat to 80% capacity. Currently the UK is from the early stages of seeing 100 kilowatts DC rapid chargers being rolled out. Using one of those, a 0 to 80% charge will require just 40 minutes. Most electric drivers recharge their vehicles overnight having a dedicated wall box. To get a 0 to 80% recharge employing a 7 kilowatts AC supply requires 10 hours. That will suit most owners. Jaguar doesn't yet quote a time for charging the I-Pace having a conventional 3-pin domestic plug. While this isn't the best way of replenishing its battery, it's a handy fallback facility if right connections are unavailable. Smart charging can replenish battery during low-tariff electricity hours, while preconditioning allows keepers to cool or heat the car even though it's still on charge, saving battery. Jaguar claims 298 miles of range. During a test route that took in urban driving, motorway as well as a long stint on some very challenging and twisty roads driven with a decent dose of enthusiasm, we reduced 248 miles of predicted range to 93 miles in, coincidentally, 93 miles of driving, though we'd anticipate to achieve a better estimate normal commuting. Buyers will get 2 teams of charging cables, a 3-pin charger, then one for rapid charging, though neither were inside test cars. How big would be the Jaguar I-Pace? Even though it's an SUV, the I-Pace incorporates a lower, sportier look as opposed to E-Pace and F-Pace crossovers and sits between 2 Pace models size-wise. At 4,682mm it's 50mm shorter than an F-Pace, if 271mm over an E-Pace. The lack of a regular engine and gearbox has allowed Jaguar designers to generate an extremely futuristic shape that has a very short nose along with the cabin pushed forward just like a mid-engine supercar. Combined which has a distance relating to the front and rear wheels that's some 130mm greater versus the F-Pace. The I-Pace has an incredibly spacious cabin, despite its relatively compact proportions. This is why a 6 feet tall passenger sitting behind the same-sized adult will discover a couple of inches of knee and headroom. The spacious rear accommodation is usually helped with the almost entirely flat floor, where commonly a bulky transmission tunnel would compromise space. Jaguar quotes a 656-litre boot capacity together with the rear seats up, 1,435 litres when they're folded. There's a 10.5-litre storage cubby between your front seats, along with a tiny front boot. There can be a more conventional center console involving the front seats. Nevertheless, it houses the ventilation system, and yes, it's incorporated in this kind of way which it makes it easy to reach the touchscreen infotainment system as well as controls arranged neatly into it. Jaguar I-Pace, bristling with connected technology. There's little inside I-Pace's cabin that screams Jaguar, save for any smattering of wood and leather, that can no doubt please brand traditionalists. That's not saying it doesn't seem like an attractive dashboard, using a trio of screens where one might ordinarily be ready to see traditional analog dials and physical buttons. Those screens made their debut inside the Range Rover Velar and become easy make use of, but at risk from greasy fingerprints, disturbing the slick aesthetics. Conspicuous by its absence would be the rising rotary gear selector, even though the push buttons for selecting the direction of travel reflect how very easy to operate an electrical car is. Delve within the superficial appeal on the touch screens for additional advanced technology including sat-nav settings optimized to electric car-friendly routes including recharging points, and entry to Jaguar's remote app via Amazon's Alexa along with the more usual smartphone access. Jaguar's employed the same trim level hierarchy to your E-Pace due to its electric SUV, with S, SE and HSE grades topped using a special first edition only available to get a short time from launch. Equipment levels will likely be generous and, like the Vela, a wool blend textile upholstery from Danish supplier Kvadrat can be acquired as an alternative to Windsor leather. Take-up has proved low within the Vela, but possibly the eco-demographic will view the appeal. Orders for your Jaguar I-Pace can be put now with prices starting at £63,495 to have an entry-level SEV 400 AWD version before government incentives. The verdict. The early signs are ideal for Jaguar's entry in the electric car market. We'll ensure our hands around the I-Pace inside the UK for making the final call regarding comfort, though. It is definitely an expensive proposition, but at time of writing is at a class of merely 1. Check back around soon for that full Jaguar I-Pace SUV review. A number of efficient diesels, the other petrol for the time being. Only one automatic gearbox on top spec diesel. Performance is adequate instead of exciting. Cars just like the Rifter are big sellers for Peugeot, particularly in diesel form, so that it comes as no surprise it's available, which has a choice of outputs in the 1.5-litre Blue Eddy diesel. There's another Putek petrol using a choice of 110 horsepower or 130 horsepower outputs, aforementioned of which can be purchased in 2019. Peugeot Rifter Blue Eddy diesel engines. Powering all diesel Rifters would be the firm's latest 1.5-litre Blue Eddy diesel engine, provided by either 100 horsepower or 130 horsepower from the UK. Other markets have the option of an 75 horsepower version, but this won't be creating its way along the channel in right-hand drive form. The 100 horsepower comes which has a 5-speed manual gearbox only, with 250 Nm of torque to call upon. The 0 to 62 miles per hour time is rated at 12.5 seconds. So progress is manufactured in a more leisurely fashion than other Rifters. Still, the engine is smooth and refined, nonetheless it's let down from the notchy 5-speed manual gearbox. It incorporates a terrifically long throw and doesn't feel everything inspiring to make use of. In fact, it feels vague and never very positive to work with at all. A shame, given which the 6-speed manual in higher output models feels an infinitely more solid, well-engineered transmission to use. There's more choice while using Blue Eddy 130 engine, though. A 6-speed manual is standard, that's much slicker to utilize, but nonetheless long of throw, plus an 8-speed automatic. It suits the Rifter's comfy character well, which is surprisingly responsive whenever you put your foot down, to some extent thanks towards the greater 300 Nm of torque on tap. There's a couple of paddles within the steering column, but we'd just leave the center console mounted dial and D and let the automobile do its thing. Performance is a lot more rapid compared to the Blue Eddy 100, unsurprisingly, taking 10.4 seconds to finish the 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint, in manual form, and 10.8 seconds for your automatic. Again, it's a basic and refined engine that never feels too coarse, disguising its van roots perfectly indeed. Peugeot Rifter Putek petrol engines. If that suits you, a petrol option, there's a range of two 1.2-litre Putek 3-cylinder petrols. Only the 110 horsepower version can be acquired at the automobile's launch inside middle of 2018, that has a more powerful 130 horsepower version joining the stove early in 2019. The Putek 110 is great for an 11.7 second 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint time, nevertheless it's minimal torquey with the bunch with 205 Nm being offered. It does feel quicker to drive compared to Blue Eddy 100, however, using a much slicker 6-speed gearbox which enables it feel too different, and simpler, to push around town. Joining the product range in 2019 is often a 130 horsepower version on the 1.2-litre Putek engine. No performance figures can be obtained yet, but we expect it'll come close for the Blue Eddy 130 for performance. Unsurprisingly, the Rifter rolls in corners. Not as bad perhaps you might expect though. Good steering and decent grip, too. It could well be wrong to criticize the Rifter internet marketing a bit roly-poly within the bends. Tackling a twisty B road isn't what it's built for inside the slightest, nonetheless it handles surprisingly well for the high-bodied car. Some passengers ought to hang on with the bend a tad too enthusiastically, but roll isn't as excessive you may expect. The Rifter's iCockpit setup to the interior helps it feel more nimble than you might expect thanks towards the dinky leader that requires fewer turns to get the vehicle around a bend. It's possibly more effective inside the Rifter than a number of other Peugeot models. Building a flat-sided MPV feel more nimble personal computer should. That said, the Rifter's steering isn't probably the most feelsome, nonetheless it's light and just the thing for maneuvering in car parks, as you move the front seats hold you constantly in place well enough, providing you don't go too mad. Peugeot's iCockpit setup for your Rifter works surprisingly well and remains airy. Some will find it has a while for getting used to. The initial thing you'll notice after you jump behind the wheel from the Rifter would be the tiny leader and high-set dials within the dashboard. It's just such as the setup you'll find inside 208, 308, 3008 and 5008. Peugeot calls it iCockpit. It works surprisingly well from the Rifter, because you sit high anyway because you would within a commercial vehicle or regular MPV, and enough adjustment from the seat not to feel hemmed in with the steering wheel. It suits some drivers over others, so take somewhat of time for it to familiarize yourself with all the setup, as some taller drivers will find the wheel is just too low. Depending for the model going for, the Rifter comes using a touchscreen infotainment system, again, lifted off their Peugeot models, that sits proud on the dashboard within easy reach from the driver. Lower spec Rifters receive a simpler setup with just several buttons without touchscreen function. The heating and ventilation controls will also be within easy reach, but almost hidden within the ledge the touchscreen sits on, so you'll have to take your eyes off the trail briefly to make certain you're jabbing the best button. The gear lever can be found nice and high for the center console so that it falls within easy reach from the driver on manual versions, however, and that is more useful. If you opt with the E-Tate automatic, a rotary dial selects the gears just like inside a Jaguar or Land Rover product. Rifter's ride can be quite comfort-focused. Deals with worse roads well. Refinement can be impressive. The Rifter's more comfort-focused setup, compared to having virtually any sporty pretensions, means it's a joy they are driving on even rougher roads and speed humps. It handles imperfections within the road wonderfully indeed, and it needs a lot for any in the worst surfaces or holes from the road to really send shudders through to your occupants. Diesel models feel more settled around the road as opposed to lighter petrol versions, and in many cases top-spec GT line versions together with the largest 17-inch alloy wheels ride adequately indeed. Refinement can be good, with almost no intrusion on the engine or tires at speed, but there's some wind noise to cope with thanks to your upright windscreen and big door mirrors. Final UK specs are not yet been confirmed. Expect it that you follow the rest from the Peugeot range. Lots of kit on higher spec Rifters. The Peugeot Rifter's range follows the rest from the French company's trim level structure, beginning from active and moving approximately Allure and GT line. All trims can be obtained in standard and long body lengths. Standard Peugeot Rifter MPV equipment. The range kicks off together with the Rifter Active, coming with 16-inch steel wheels, black front and back bumpers, aluminium roof bars, electric front windows and door mirrors, air conditioning, DAB radio, Bluetooth, USB connection, automatic lights and wipers. Next up will be the Rifter Allure, adding 16-inch alloy wheels, body-colored bumpers, LED daytime running lights, electric parking brake, electric back and front windows, rear parking sensors. 8.0-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Voice recognition. Height adjustment for driver's seat with under-seat storage and armrest. Tray tables for second row passengers. Storage compartment between front row seats. At the top from the range would be the Rifter GT line. 17-inch alloy wheels. Gloss black inserts on door sills, gloss black door mirrors. Front and rear scuff plates. Gloss black roof rails. Sat-nav. Panoramic glass roof. 3 independent seats on second row. Dual zone climate control. Keyless entry and ignition. Power folding door mirrors. Tinted rear windows. Opening rear window. Optional Peugeot Rifter MPV extras. Various options are open to boost the Rifter's kit count, keeping the car safe kit like adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist and speed limit recognition that are within the safety equipment list. A reversing camera is offered to make maneuvering easier, while an entire self-parking product is also about the options list. Wireless phone charging is obtainable, as they are Peugeot's advanced grip control traction system to produce life just a little easier if you're driving on much harder terrain. Hasn't been crash tested by Euro NCAP. Lots of safety kit has come about as standard. Should show to be a safe family car. The Peugeot Rifter should come to be a very safe option thanks with a healthy listing of standard and optional safety equipment. On models with 3 individual seats inside the rear, the Rifter is sold with 3 ISOFIX child seat points, offering something all kinds of other MPVs and family cars don't offer. A full complement of airbags is standard, while various driver assistance kit is accessible, including adaptive cruise control, advanced grip control, lane keep assistance, blind spot monitoring, autonomous emergency braking, driver attention assist, self-parking and traffic sign recognition. Space and practicality are Rifter's trump card. Vast interior means room for around 7. Boot is big, plus there's plenty of extra storage. Practicality will be the Rifter's raison d'etre, in order that it comes as no real surprise that its boxy van-like shape means it's easily one in the most versatile family cars you can get. In standard length, the Rifter is sold with plenty of space for 5 adults thanks with a wide cabin, high roof and 3 individual rear seats. Go for the 7-seater together with the longer body and headroom can be quite impressive from the third row. Nevertheless, the lack of footwell means those within the back should have their knees superb in relation to their body, even though there's lots of room for legs in comparison to more traditional 7-seat MPVs. In standard length, the Rifter is fairly all too easy to maneuver, as the high, van-like driving position means visibility is a great one. The flat sides mean it's very easy to judge the extremities from the vehicle, and lots of glass helps here, too. However, the wide dashboard makes it feel a bit larger PC really is. Opt for your longer Rifter and things change somewhat. That extra body tacked within the back makes it an extremely long car, over 4.7 meters in size, and will probably be a bit trickier to maneuver around town and in car parks. You'll desire a Rifter that is sold with parking sensors on the very least. Go with the 5-seat Rifter and boot space available is 774 litres, trumping you'll find other 5-seat MPV for sale. Fold the corner seats down and also this expands to your total load capacity of 3,000 litres. Choose the 7-seater and boot space using the first 2 rows in position weighs in at 1,050 litres, while folding the center row down loosens 3,500 litres of space. With the automobile and 7-seat mode, boot space being offered is 209 litres, approximately the parcel shelf, rendering it quite tight if you've got a complete complement of passengers and luggage. To boost usability, the Rifter's middle row of seats fold completely flat to the floor, whilst the front passenger seat will even tumble forwards to allow for extra long loads to fit in the cabin.